Hi guys. Now this video is all about self-reasons. In Excel, now this self-reasoning is a very important concept if you want to reduce the redundancy and increase the efficiency of your working on Excel. Let's take an example to understand what do I mean by redundancy. Suppose in your professional life or whenever you are working on Excel, you need to apply a formula in, let's say, 5 different columns. Now, ideally, what you will do as of now is you will apply the formula once in the first column, apply it again in the second column, apply it again in the third column, fourth, and so on. Now, this increases the redundancy. Why? Because the same formula is being applied 5 times in 5 different columns. It increases time. And we, as professionals, are expected to reduce our time on the job, right? So, how do we reduce this redundancy and increase our efficiency? We do this by a concept known as self-freezing. Now, let's take an example again. You have some data in front of you. In the first example, you have an escalation rate. Now, what do I mean by escalation rate? So every year, for example, it's my sales price. Every year, it increases by a certain percentage. Inflation, right? So I have 10% escalation rate. Revenue, let's take it as a per unit basis here. I'll just do that. Or let it be revenue only. So let's say in the base year, as of now, it's 10,000. Next year, it is expected that there will be a 10% increase. Now, how do I build this? How will I find out the revenue amount for year 1? I do this by starting with equals. I will say previous year's revenue multiplied by, within brackets, 1 plus, and I will select 10% and I will close the bracket. One common mistake that most of you guys will do here is that instead of linking it to 10%, you will apply 10% like this. Though there is no problem as of now here by doing this, but this practice is a strict no-no when you are working on Excel. The rule says that you have to try and link every component that is being used in the formula. Why this is not preferred? Because now if there is a need for me to change this 10% and reduce it to 5%. Now how will I do that? I will again go into each and every cell where I have applied the formula and manually I have to change it to 5%. Now, I was supposed to reduce my time, but this increases my time substantially, isn't it? So, this practice is a strict no-no. No hard codings while using formulas. Alright, so you will link this to 10% and close the bracket. This is how most of you will do it. And this is correct, right? I press enter and I have 11,000. 10,000 plus 10%, 11,000. Now, what will I do in the second year? Probably you will apply it again. Previous year, multiply it by 1 plus 10%, close the bracket and enter. Now what is happening? You applied one formula here. You applied the same formula again here. If it would have been 5 different columns in addition to this, you will apply it 5 times. So this increases the time taken for this job, right? So what do? I have an alternative. Many of you will say as of now, ki, bro, can't you please copy it? Why are you even applying it? Let's just copy it. I said, cool enough. Let's try. I do a control C here. I press enter. Oops. What happens? Ideally, it should be 12 around 12,000, right? why is it 11,000 only? Now you say, we know how to diagnose the formula. Let's see what the game is. You say, bro, please press F2. I say, cool enough. And you find out the error. You say, uh-oh, why has this linking changed? In C8, I connected it to 10%. When I copy it across, why do the linking change? Now in Excel, guys, if you have linked something and you copy it to the right, left, upwards or downwards, the linking will change along with you until and unless you don't freeze the cell. Now, how do I freeze the cell? Now I know that if I copy it, my linking will change. So this 10%, I have to stick it here. I don't want this 10% cell to change ever, right? So what do? I go to this formula where I have connected 10%. I press F4. I press F4. Now, as soon as you press F4, you will notice two dollar signs. One before the alphabet and one after the alphabet before the number. This means the cell is freezed. This is known as cell freezing. I press enter. Now I copy the formula and it works. I can take it to the third year, it still works. I can take it to the fourth year, it still works. Similarly, I can copy it across and each time you will notice that it works, right? So this is what is known as cell freezing. You are restricting the cell. You are telling Excel, whatever happens, this reference will not change. Alright, so that is what is meant by cell freezing. Now, why is it very important? Because as you have sensed it, right, this increases my speed. I have to apply the formula once, I can simply copy it till wherever I want. No need to apply it again. Correct? So, one time F4, $2 signs I get. That is known as cell freezings. Okay. Coming on to the next type of freezing, guys. Something known as a row freeze or a column freeze. Row freeze, column freeze. Now, what do I mean by row freeze? You might have guessed it right. If I am freezing this row and take my cell to bottom or above, the row will not change because I am freezing this row. And what is a column freeze? I can similarly freeze the entire column. What will happen if I move the cell right or left? Column will not move. So I have restricted the column. Let's take an example. Now I have some units here, right? I have volume, I have revenue per unit, I have cost per unit. Now I told you that in Excel, to make a dynamic formula, what do I need to do is, I need to enter the formula only once here. So I will just enter the formula here and I will simply copy it across and the formula should be filled appropriately. And being filled appropriately, what do I mean? That here it should be taken as 5 and here it should take as 10 automatically, right? So let's try and build the formula. Equals, you will say, Ayush, click on volume. I say, okay, let's click on volume. So I select volume, you say multiply by and select 5. I say very good and enter. Now do you think this is correct? Well, of course 100 into 5, that's what you needed to do, but is this a dynamic formula, guys? Let's see. If I move it to the down, ideally the result should be 200 into 5. If I just take it down, the result oops, is 1 lakh. Why? Because it takes 200 into 500. Why? Because as soon as I take my cell down, the reference change. Let's see what happens if I take it to the right. Oops, it had to be 100 into 10. It is 500 into 10. Why? Because as soon as I take it to the right, the row has changed. Here it should change. It's fine. But why has this volume column changed? I needed to restrict this here. Correct? So let's build a formula again. Equals, I want revenue per unit. Correct? Now here, press F4 twice. Let's say press F4 twice. One time, two time. When you press F4 twice, what do you notice? You notice that now there is only $1 sign after the alphabet and before the numeric, right? This means that the row has been freezed. So 2 times F4, the row will get freezed. Multiply by, you say 100. Now again I need to column freeze it. Now if 1 time F4 is cell freeze, 2 times F4 is row freeze, then 3 times F4 will be column freeze. 1, 2, 3. Just look at the dollar sign. Now it is before the alphabet. So please remember like this, whenever there are two dollar signs, the entire cell will freeze. Whenever the dollar sign is before the numeric, row will get freezed. Whenever the dollar sign is before the column, column will get freezed. So I freeze the column here and I press enter. Now let's see what will happen if I copy it. Aha, you get the answer. Why? Because let's take an example. What will happen if I go below 500? Now what happens is, here you have freezed the row. So 5 will not move. 5 is as it is. So this row is as it is. This column. Now why 100 has gone to 200? You might be wondering. Because we have not freezed this cell. Please remember. We have only freezed the column. Hence rows are free to move. Correct? We have freezed only the column. By column freeze, I order Excel that whenever I move left or right, the column should not move. And if I go up or down, the rows will be free to move. Similarly, if I have row freezed, I order Excel that the row will not move. Wherever I go up or down, this row will not change. But it is only a row freeze. It is not a column freeze. Hence, columns are free to move. Hence, now if I take my cell to the right, you will notice that 5 has gone to 10. Because columns are free to move, remember? The rows have been freezed. So that is how you apply cell freezings. If I have to summarize, so if I press F4 one time, what will happen? You will notice something like $B$5. This means that it is a cell freeze. What will happen if I press F4 two times? You will notice something like this. This means it's a row freeze. And what will happen if I press F4 three times? You will get something like this. That means it is a column freeze. And what will happen if I press F4 again? The freezings will get removed. So guys, please, if you have any doubts on this, please rewind the video and play it again. Because if you are not clear with freezings, you will face a lot of trouble, a lot of time constraints while working with complex formulas in Excel. As we move forward, we will look at various lookup formulas, VLOOKUP, index, HLOOKUP, and you will notice that we will be using freezings, right? So if you have any doubt as far as freezings are considered, please replay the video once and have a look at it again. Now, I hope you will be clear with the freezings once you practice it on your own. And I'll see you around in the next video, guys. That's it for freezings. So we have done cell freezings, row freezing, and column freezing. The very important concept in Excel. So hope you guys try it on and get crystal clear with this before we move forward. Try it on. I'll see you around in the next video.